We're about 5 months away from the first caucuses and primaries in the 2016 race for the White House. And if you're a resident of Iowa or New Hampshire, brace yourself for a flurry of TV ads. But although $47 million in nationwide TV time has already been reserved by the candidates, digital outlets are now competing with TV stations for those campaign dollars. WSJ reporter Patrick O'Connor joins us from Washington to discuss the steep growth of digital advertising since the last presidential campaign. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So TV certainly still gets the lion's share of ad money, but you write that candidates and groups are expected to spend more than $1 billion on digital ads this time around?
Yeah, the projections right now are that they'll spend $1.1 billion in this election cycle, which is a seven-fold increase from the roughly $162 million they spent in 2012. So it's a big jump, but in a lot of ways, politicians are really playing catch-up to the private sector.
Now, is ad campaign spending in general up this cycle?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you've got two open primaries in both parties and campaign finance rules that are getting really blurry with these outside groups that can now raise unlimited sums, I think it's a safe assumption. Campaign advertising has gotten bigger every cycle, and I think it's a pretty safe bet that it's going to be a lot bigger this cycle than it was in 2012. How big we will see.
We will see. Now, of course, one thing working against TV ad consumption is the amount of time these days people are not watching TV and are rather on their smartphones and tablets, correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on TV broadcasters. Obviously, people are not watching live television like they used to. That's particularly true of people 18 to 29. But then you've got folks that DVR all their shows or watch more video on a smartphone or tablet, or technologies that didn't really even exist or were not up to speed in 2012. So there's just a lot more pressure we're seeing on television broadcasters. That's obviously true in the private sector, and it's increasingly true among politicians. Politicians have just been a little slower to adapt to the new market than companies that sell toothpaste or cell phones.
It's interesting, though, that so much of this ad money that goes to TV can be wasteful because it's not very effective. Digital providers say they can target much more effectively, correct?
Yeah, and I mean, unlike someone selling toothpaste, if you're broadcasting a television ad, you know, you're broadcasting to people who may be outside of the state that you want to reach them, or you could be broadcasting the ad to people who won't participate in the election, or, you know, if you're Republican, you're broadcasting to Democrats and vice versa. If you consider Davenport, Iowa, it's the third largest media market in Iowa, so it's going to attract a lot of money this year and next year as candidates from both parties trying to draw in primary voters, but half of the residents live across the river in Illinois, so at least 50 cents on every dollar is going to be wasted the minute you spend it. Digital advertising, they can do a better job of targeting specific people, but it's kind of a question of how effective it is.
Right.
That said, that they have a much better case to make to these candidates in terms of they are actually reaching the people that the politicians want them to reach.
Right, and I guess TV still has older Americans in its corner, right, Patrick? That crucial voting bloc.
Yeah, I mean, if TV has a major strength, it would be that Americans 50 plus watch, I think, somewhere on average about 47 hours of TV a week. They are obviously they're more likely to vote than younger Americans, so that remains a critical demographic and is a big thing that TV has in its corner. But as I mentioned earlier, generationally, that's about to shift, and the challenge will be, I think, increased between now and the next election.
Yep, as you said, just a reflection of what's happening in the larger ad world as well. Thank you so much, Patrick, for that.
Thanks for having me.